Hello everyone, it's Professor M again. In this video, I wanted to show you how I would export my logo files when handing them off to a client. So without further ado, let's jump into Illustrator and get this going. So Illustrator, we've got our file. You might have seen this in the other video. This is the one that we used for packaging. We're going to do much the same here. So I've got my logo assets here. I've got an icon, a color logo, a white version of the logo, and a black version of the logo. Some of you might ask, why? Why do we need these versions? So this is your overall brand. This white one is really useful for overlaying onto videos and different things like that, should that content come later on. A black version is always good to have because it's really cheap and easy to print and produce. So say if you have to do, for some legal reason, a black and white, different forms, things like that, or certain industry people want to have this for production. Like say if you're getting something laser engraved, this really helps out with it. So with those three versions, the color, the white, and the black, you're all set to go. That's kind of the holy trinity of logos right there. I also threw in an app design icon just for use for the brand later on. So now here's what we're going to do. We're going to export all of these. So I'm going to take these, I'm holding Option and going to click and drag. That way I can make copies of these guys to get them set aside. That way I've got all my stuff in a row and it's good to go. All right, so this is everything I want to export right here. So you could click on this, hit export selection, select individually what you want to do and all of that, but there's a faster way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that. So we want to find the asset export over here in our bay. If you don't see it, you can go up to Windows. You can go to Asset Export. Go ahead and click on that. And you'll see it already pulled it right there from the first one. So then I'm going to click and drag and add these to that bay. Great. So now that I've got all these in through here, I'm going to label them Pulse Wave Music. This one I'm going to do icon. I'm just going to select that for ease of typing and time. Hit this, and this is going to be logo, color. We're going to rinse repeat on this one, except change it to white. And this one will obviously be black. Great. So I've got all of those versions good to go. So now I'm going to take and select all of these. And you can tell it's selected because I've got this blue box that's highlighting it. And I'm going to hit Shift. Now I've got all of them good to go. And now we're going to talk about what versions I would export to hand to a client. PDF's a must. They're always going to appreciate that. Also, we're going to give them a PNG. The reason we're going to give them a PNG is because it's a transparent background. So that works in PowerPoint, works online, all those great things. I usually like to scale mine up unless the client specifically asks me for a specific size that they're using. Because when you scale it up, it makes sure it's a little bit crisper. So you can always scale down. You're not going to lose anything. But once you scale up, say if they take the logo and they want to stretch it or whatever, or make it larger, it's going to start pixelating on them. So in order to avoid some of that and give it a little bit more room, I usually do ×4 as far as that scale goes. Same thing with JPEG. Why would they want a JPEG? JPEGs are lighter weight. They're not as heavy as far as data is concerned in size because they don't have that transparency layer on them. You're going to have a white background on this, but we'll talk about that later. So PDF, PNG, JPEG. I also like to do SVG. This is a scalable vector graphic. This is really nice for web and mobile apps. This scales the logo and mark, whatever you've created in here, and keeps it nice and crisp. You won't deal with pixelation. This has been around for a while. It hasn't gained industry adoption yet, but I find it extremely useful. And then I'm also going to give them an EPS. So the EPS allows them to open this file in Photoshop. It also allows them to open in Illustrator. So they've got a version of this to work with should they need. So now that we've got all those versions good to go, I'm going to click on this box right here for the launch report. And I want to see where this is going. So We even have options here to create subfolders based on format. If I wanted all my PNGs together, if I wanted all my SVGs together, I could do that. I'm not doing it on this one, and I'll show you why when we go into it. You can also do scale. All the ones that were ×4 would be in one folder versus another. Once again, we'll kind of get into how I like to do it and what I find from hearing from clients that they really like. That makes life easier for them. So I like this going to the desktop, but I just don't want it floating around. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this folder icon, and I'm going to create a folder. And I'm going to call this PulseWave Music Logos. And I'm going to create that. And so, yep, that's where everything's going to go. I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit choose. And then I'm going to hit export asset. So as you can see in a second, it's already put out all of these ones here. Let's close this window. That way I'm not dealing with too much going on. So we've got all of our versions here for it. Now I want to make it a little bit cleaner, not only for myself, but for the client. So I'm going to break these out into color logo. I'm going to make another one for, we've guessed it, the black logo. And I'm not going to create a subfolder, so don't do that. Back to here, and we're going to do the white logo. Widget. So that's coming new in 2027. Widget. New technology being invented right here. Relabel it to white logo because that's an actual thing. And then I also have the app icon, so I'm just going to put icon here, and we know what that is. So I'm going to stretch this out a little bit so that way I can read everything that I've got going on. So here we go. We've got our black logo. You can see it right here because it's got that filing naming convention going on. I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to grab all these black logos, and then I'm just going to click and drag them right into their respective folder. Same thing with color. I'm going to grab all my color versions. I'm going to go into color logo. All my white ones, going to grab all these guys, put them down here, and all my icons are going to go right in there. So now when the client goes and looks into this folder, it's already pre-separated, good to go, and super easy for them to navigate and see the assets that they want and need. I am going to go into white logo real quick though, and further expand upon PNG and PDF here. So a white logo on a PDF is just going to come up as a white rectangle. So it really doesn't have a purpose or a use. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. I just keep it in there. Otherwise, you would have to do separate exports for it. So I just usually like to batch and then I'll delete on the back end. So we're going to do the same thing with a JPEG. White on white is not going to work for really anything. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this guy too. Those are the two versions we don't need for white. But you can see SVG, all of this. This one will actually appear as a white logo on transparent, much like the PNG. And that's pretty much what we have for this. So this is what I'd hand off to a client after we've hit that beautiful moment of they've agreed, pays all figured out, and all that good stuff. Now, I also like to take this one step farther. So with this, I'm going to show you a little bit. We're going to look at our info. And this right now is at 7.4 megabytes. It's okay. It's not too huge. But we can make it a little bit lighter and easier to email to our client. You know, they might not be running on the best computer or anything else like that. So let's make life a little bit easier for file transfer. And then not only that, for us saving it in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on this. And on Mac, it says compress. On PC, you'll probably say zip. Those are going to be the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. It's now taken all of those files and made a nice little zip out of it that I can easily send and archive. And you can see the weight difference here, that this has gone to 4.8 versus 7.4. So that's really useful. That's much easier to send, much easier to save, and will make life so much easier for you and the client in the future. So brief wrap up, we can export to the export assets panel right in through here, figure out all of our versions, and in one click, it'll export it all. make a nice little folder, and then we can organize it right here to hand off to the client. So that was how to export a logo and hand it off to a client in the versions you should hand off to them. Thanks for joining, and let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you on the next one.